Hello and welcome. Today we're going to change the crankshaft sensor on my e46, the M54 variant to be more specific. The three main reasons for a faulty crankshaft sensor are mostly codes, long starting times, so long crank before it actually goes, and rough idle / misfires. I have all three of that, so we'll definitely need to change that. We'll also settle the debate, can you use cheap sensors? Because I went with Hella and not OEM. Hella I've made good experiences with in the past and they are reputable. So, the clip you just watched was not that long ago. Unfortunately, I didn't post it. Why, you may ask? Well, I got codes again and the starting behavior of the car hasn't changed. So, I got a care package straight from BMW. This was not bought off of eBay or something, just straight from the dealer. New crank sensor and two new cam sensors, so this was fairly expensive and set me back around 300 bucks, so let's hope that this definitely changes this car, because otherwise it wasn't worth it. We're gonna start straight with the cam sensors. When you're gonna order the same as I did, you're gonna get one short stubby one, which is the exhaust side sensor, and you're gonna get one with a long cable. This is the intake side one. To get access to the exhaust side cam sensor, we're going to take out the radiator shroud, so just going to disconnect every connector, and then a clip and a screw. This is the connector for the exhaust side cam sensor. You can just pull that off and then it's only held in with one bolt. After that, you have to locate the bolt which sits right under the connector. It's a 5mm imbus. Now we can just pull the old one out, and this one was also Hella. Something that just surprised me is the original ones don't come with a new gasket. Weird, especially for that price, so we'll just transfer the old ones. Now I'm just gonna reinsert it. We just need to reinstall the bolt. Just gonna put the connector on with some contact spray. I now have the car on my trusty BMW brand original jack stands. So these are quite rare and yeah, just joking. The car is ready to go back under and we're just gonna change the crank sensor real quick. We are gonna have to take off the underbody protection plate and then we can go there and take it out. This was the hardest part, and now it gets as simple as shoving your hands through here all the way to the bell housing, since that's where the crank sensor is located, on the height of the oil level sensor up and then straight into the block. It's relatively tricky without the lift. You'll have to get an imbus 5mm just like the cam sensor and just turn it. To find the thread hole again, you're gonna have to turn the sensor miraculously and then find the thread. Yeah, kind of tricky, but gonna go through it. The crank sensor also came without a gasket, so really disappointed by BMW. Since these are really expensive, I would have at least thought that they would go out of their way and spend the 0.5 cents to produce the rubber gaskets. Now we're gonna check if the crank sensor made a difference. My bet is yes. So, this settles the debate. You can't use aftermarket crank sensors on these engines because BMW is too picky. Tomorrow I'm gonna change the intake cam sensor and then let's hope that the car runs even better, because right now it still takes a little longer than my other e46 to start, but at least the few seconds cranking has gone. Now it fires up pretty much instantly. I've also just let the car idle and then revved it a bit. The misfire while revving up from low is gone. Thank God. Now I've got the correct size spanner, it's a size 32, and now we need to undo the intake valve solenoid. So I'm going to put a bit of paper under there so that I don't drip everything under. So it's already out, nice. Now we have access to the cam sensor, so we'll need to undo the bolt. The neat thing is, the imbus size is the same for all of them, so crank and cam sensors share the same size. So if you do the crank sensor, you can be sure that you can check the size right here, because you have no space at the rear to check what size it is, so you're guessing it. The intake cam sensor has a wire that goes from the cam sensor to the electrical box. It is this one, and now we need to track that down with our hands, and it goes to the box all the way at the bottom, so you can reach it just with the stuff here out of the way. You don't need to remove any other stuff, so at least that's good. Then press on the clip and pull it out. We can't remove the cam sensor unless we undo the Vanos line, so yeah, not ideal. I've just taken out the oil filter to get easier access to the cam sensor, and I don't know if it picks up on camera, but there's already a considerable amount of sludge in there, so yeah, this filter is not even 50 kilometers old, so we definitely need to flush this engine very often because it has been so neglected in the past, but yeah. I already have filters for 3 oil changes and enough oil for enough oil changes, so yeah, we'll do these relatively quickly in the future. I'd say around 300 kilometers on this oil, and then I'll change it, and then 5,000 or like 2,000 on the next oil, and then I'll switch to my regular interval of once a year, 10,000 kilometers. I've given the engine bay a nice little clean and reinstalled all the beauty covers, because now most of the work on the engine is done and we just need to do a few minor things like servo reservoir, like the oil filter housing gasket and the check valve, some minor things here and there, and then the engine is sorted for the next year while we'll undergo some major upgrades. But we'll also have to reinstall the cabin air filter housing. A new cabin air filter and the cover. This is good for a year, and now I'm gonna give you guys a listen to the engine. It starts pretty much instantly, it runs a lot smoother, and overall everything has improved like by a lot. And from now on I'm pretty much only gonna buy original crank and cam sensors for these engines, because it is just not worth it to go through the trouble of replacing the crank sensor all the way at the back, getting under the car, etc, etc. Just easier to do it once. Even if these sensors are priced pretty heavily, they're still worth it because they just transform how the engine runs, and the aftermarket sensors just make the engine run like crap. I'm just gonna place the microphone near the headlight and then you can have a listen. As you could just hear, our long cranking has significantly improved and is pretty much perfect. Just as a quick reminder, this is how the engine started before. So if your engine is also having long starting times, just check the crank sensor, because that is what worked for me. Also, before we continue working on the E46, we're gonna work on the E46. By that I mean my brother's car is getting new rear quarters, an M3 bumper, M Sport rear bumper, full new interior, so we have a lot of cosmetic upgrades on another E46, so I'll hope you guys enjoy that as well. I'm gonna start working on it right now because I've already filmed most of the other stuff, so thanks for watching and see you in the next one.